Hey friend, I am excited to bring to you the first of 4 different videos that I'm going to be doing on embracing uncertainty. I know that all of us have had our fair share of uncertainty lately, and some of you may find yourself drowning or just feeling like you're spiraling or even paralyzed and just uncertain of how to move forward in your day-to-day life. And you're lacking motivation or inspiration, or you're just overcome with fear. Whatever it is that you're facing right now with all the uncertainties that are swirling, you're not in it alone. We are in this together. And I just want to bring to you some things that have helped me along the way. And this week specifically, I'm going to be talking to you about unmasking or taking a closer look at the value system that I believe is really driving a lot of the behaviors that you and I might be bringing to the table. A lot of our reactions and responses to the loved ones in our life, to our kids, to our spouse, to our family members, the responses that we have in our business on a daily basis. And for those of you that are Enneagram lovers or maybe Enneagram explorers, stick with me to the very end of this video because we're going to be talking about how each type shows up with uncertainty. How each one of us, there's 9 different types in the Enneagram. I'll hit that towards the end of this video. But I really want to show you how your type might be dealing with uncertainty right now and what that looks like for you on a daily basis. In the following weeks, so in the next few weeks, we're going to be taking a fresh look at uncertainty and just a revolutionary way that I believe that I have found to really approach it. I'm sure it's not new under the sun by any means, but just something in my own life that I have found as a way to handle and deal with the uncertainties that come my way, not just with the current life situation and current world situation, but just over the years of just experiencing uncertainty. As well as I want to bring to you some tools, some things that I have found along the way that have been super helpful for me, especially as of late. Lots of things that are tried and true, lots of things that have been born out of trial and error that really haven't worked super well. Because we're in this thing together right now. We all have our own uncertainties that we face on a daily basis, and then we have this bigger looming crisis that the entire world is in right now. And so being in this together, we need to find a way through it and forward together. And hopefully that is what this can be for you. Okay, so I want to look at just 2 key resources that we all have. We all have these resources available to us, and really how we're using them. We all have time and we all have energy. And I want to take a look at how each of us are consciously and subconsciously using our time and our energy right now, maybe in the super uncertain season. How are you using your time and your energy? And I would beg to say you probably don't even realize it, but you and I have spent the better part of our lives building a foundation. We have spent a good amount up until now trying to lay this foundation so that we can come to a level of knowing, a level of order and structure, and really a level of certainty in our life. We do all these things. We go to school, we go to college, maybe we have a belief system or faith system that we've been a part of, and all of these things that we have accumulated and acquired over the years have been for the purpose of, maybe you wouldn't have said this, but for the purpose of creating this structure and this order, which out of that flows a level of certainty for yourself. And without realizing it, I think most of us have used these 2 key resources, our time and our energy, really our thoughts, being controlled by this longing in our hearts for certainty. And I don't even think we realize how much it's controlling us. We ask questions like, is it gonna rain tomorrow? What do I wear? Will I make it into the college of my choice? Will I get hired for that job? Is my business gonna be successful? And we ask questions like these every day so that we can make a certain amount of prediction, so that we can establish a sense of certainty. So we believe that somehow if we can predict tomorrow, or if we can predict people's reactions to us, we will feel more safe. And yet, certainty is a very real part of our existence on this planet. It is something that each one of us faces every single day. We can't get away from it. And sometimes uncertainty is heightened by the season that we're in. For example, as a teenager. If you think with me back all those years ago, graduating high school, I remember feeling so uncertain about moving out of state. I had been born and raised and stayed at the same, like in the same area, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Shout out to my fellow Chattanoogans. And I was at the same school for 14 years. So from the time that I was 3 until graduation, I was at the same school, same church, same everything. I know maybe for some of you that move around a lot, that sounds boring, but it created a level of safety and certainty and consistency for me. So moving out of state to go to Virginia for school was like mind-blowing for me. Doing my own laundry. I mean, I'd done my laundry, but my mom was always there to back me up if I put the darks in with the whites, you know? I think going off as a teenager, if you can remember back to like your first time of trying to cook for yourself, or maybe it was when you got married, and just the reality of like, oh my gosh, I don't know why, microwave oatmeal felt so daunting to me, but it just did. Or making ramen noodles, it was uncertain, it was scary, it was different. For me, playing at the Division I level for sports, I'd always, been a top athlete at my school, and playing at the Division I level, a sport that was actually my secondary sport. It was not my primary sport, it was my secondary sport up until the moment I was scouted and recruited for it. So in an instant, my world changed. And what should have been, and was the most exciting thing in my life, also came with it such a level of uncertainty for me, because I knew it wasn't my primary. It was my secondary sport. And it added to it when I got to school and realized that not everybody on the team that was on scholarship just automatically made the cut to travel, that they only took a certain number of athletes to travel. And it was the first time in my life I'd really been faced with sitting the bench and having to really start over, work my way up, earn that position. I'd had to do it obviously as a kid at some point, but it was a whole different paradigm for me coming into all these star athletes, and the uncertainty that I faced having been a starter on the other teams that I'd been on, facing the uncertainty of, will I even play? Will I even get picked to travel? There's so many uncertainties that come as a teenager when you're going off to school, and then we fast forward into adulthood. If you're watching this and you're an adult, you have been through an enormous amount of uncertainties in your life, like whether it's relationship struggles, not knowing how things are going to turn out in a certain relationship in your life, maybe having a loved one that dies. Maybe you're at the season of life where you're facing the uncertainty of taking care of sick parents, or you've had a parent pass away. COVID, I mean, let's talk about the greatest uncertainty I think we've all faced and our world has faced. COVID happens, and in one moment, let's just take a look at the sheer amount of uncertainties that this one thing has brought into all of our lives collectively. That is what makes this so unique, is that we are in a collective uncertainty together, facing very, very similar uncertainties together, which we all have uncertainties. We face them at different times and different seasons. You have a friend that's going through this and you're like, oh yeah, I went through that 5 years ago, or I haven't even experienced that yet. But right now we're facing this uncertainty together. Asking the questions. I remember when it first hit back in March, where we're asking the questions early in March. We're on spring break, and I remember going, well, I wonder if we're going to go back to school this next week. And then it turned out, I wonder if we're going to go back to school for the rest of the 2019 to the 2020 school year. Are we even going to finish the school year in the school building? For some of you, it was, are we even going to have school? We have 2 kids in a private school, 1 in a public school. 2 actually finished on Zoom and had classes. The public school that we were at couldn't really get those resources together in time. So it was the uncertainty of, wow, we have a child in high school who has literally just missed a quarter of her year. And they're not changing ACT and SAT questions. How is she going to make that up? The uncertainties of what that's going to mean for scholarship opportunities, or what that's going to mean for her future, just knowing that there's that gap. The uncertainty for some of your kids, or for you, of, will I even be able to play sports? And your senior year, you missed out on that spring sport, and now we're here we are, fast forward to the summer, and we're all feeling the uncertainty of, are we even going to open in the fall? And what about fall sports? And the reality of those may not look the same. Are we going to have to sit 6 feet apart? Are we going to have to wear a mask? Are they going to have limited seating in gymnasiums? Or how is this thing going to work? So many uncertainties that we're asking about the past, about the current situation. I mean, the biggest uncertainty for a long time, right when this thing started, was, is there going to be enough toilet paper, for Pete's sake? Something that was so commonplace all of a sudden became the greatest uncertainty and the greatest commodity that everybody is rushing to the store for. When am I going to be able to buy more than 1 carton of eggs? Just all of these things. And if we take it beyond the personal level, the level that all of us are experiencing personally, take it nationally, we are all facing this nationally. The uncertainties economically, politically, and the list goes on. Then what about the uncertainties of everything that happened with the murder of George Floyd? I mean, let's just think about that for just a moment. This case has brought to our awareness in a whole new way all of the uncertainty that our Black brothers and sisters face on a daily basis that maybe some of us were completely unaware of, that the uncertainties that are living in their hearts on a daily basis for their safety, for themselves, for their children. For me, recently, a tornado, all in the midst of coronavirus and all the stuff, a tornado came through on Easter Sunday. And in 5 minutes completely leveled and wiped out the school and the church that I just mentioned that I'd gone to from the time I was 3 through 18. Something that took 35 years to build in 5 minutes was completely leveled, leaving behind it uncertainties for staff, for students, for alumni. In a moment, my point of just stating some of those things is that in a moment, everything that felt so certain yesterday, all of a sudden can be so uncertain today. It can all be shaken. It can all be, it can just feel like shaky ground, where the day before toilet paper was a certain thing, the next day it's uncertain. So what do? Those are things you probably are like, duh, I already know that. There's so much of this going on. What do we actually do when we feel uncertain? I think all of us approach uncertainty differently. In the past, when I would feel fear of uncertainty, I would do a lot of things to push that fear away. I would try harder. I would get better. I would try to improve myself. Growing up in the Christian faith, I would memorize more verses. I would pray more. I lived by this philosophy of achieve more, do more, and you'll get more. Or do the right things, say the right things, and you'll get the right things. I really believed it was kind of like input in, then it would come out. And your MO might not be to exercise more or to do more. It might be to pull the covers up over your head and hide. It might be to eat a half a gallon of ice cream. And I'm not saying that I haven't done both of those things before. But as of late, I feel like I've even adopted a new strategy of scrolling through Facebook Marketplace to purchase very unnecessary things, because for some reason it feels like I can just get lost in this world of random things to purchase, and it seems to make my uncertain chaos a little less overwhelming. So that's one way. Another way is getting kind of lost in projects on my house. And I love doing projects, DIY stuff, painting. That is such a core of who I am. I've been painting since I was 12. I love to convert furniture. I love to design beautiful spaces. I've always done this as an outlet and a hobby to my business. My business is something that's just never done. So I love to be able to start something and see it, a beginning and an end, and I can see this completed project. However, it's really easy in uncertain times to escape into things that are very good things, but to really escape into those things and to just get lost in them. And I found myself doing that over this a little bit. So the truth is, though, none of the striving, none of the doing, none of the working has ever really worked to quiet the unspoken fear that was in my heart. And you might be in the same boat where you have kind of this unspoken fear that lives right below the surface. And all of the things that you do, whether it's hiding, whether it's doing, whether it's eating, whether it's running, whether it's working, whatever those things are that you do and your method of operation, you might be very aware, whether you say it or not, that all the stuff that you're doing to try to keep that uncertainty at bay, you're a little afraid that it's not actually working. That at any moment, the bottom's going to fall out or something bad's going to happen. You see, I think we do these things in hopes that what we're doing will prepare us enough. It will tell us what to expect. It will keep us safe and help us avoid bad things from happening. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't. We definitely live in a world, as you know, where hard things happen, bad things happen, and things that are very, very, very much out of our control happen every single day. So why is this important for us to know? Why is it important to really begin to look at the value system that I think is governing our life, this value system of a desire for certainty above all else? You might think you have a value system of authenticity or a value system of success or a value system of honor or whatever your values are of giving. But I believe at the core, each one of us are more driven by a value system of certainty than we realize. And I believe it's important to look at it because when we are driven by this value system, especially if you don't know it's driving you, it is robbing you. It's actually robbing you of peace. And it is creating a level of anxiety, such a level of anxiety and fear and worry that because you're not aware of it, you don't even know where it's coming from. So you might be trying all of these things to fix something that you don't know is broken. You don't even know what it is that you're trying to fix. And the anxiety and the worry is actually what is driving so many of the responses to the people in your life, of how you're showing up in your work or your business right now. Maybe it's robbing you of productivity. It's robbing you of enjoyment in life. So this is why it's important for us to look at it. And I think we do this, and again, so many different ways on on kind of an unspoken level. I'm going to show you in a second how we do this with our Enneagram numbers. But I think we tend to size people up before we know them, predicting their character, so that we can really assess in seconds how we need to be with them, so that we can create that security and certainty of our belonging with them. I think that we say things about our business. If you're an entrepreneur or whatever, that's mainly who I work with. A lot of entrepreneurs and coach a lot of people around their mindsets and their business. And one thing that I have found over 20 years of doing this is that a lot of times we can create excuses for ourselves in our business. Not that there aren't very real and valid moments of this, but sometimes we can create excuses for why we don't want to work our business or why we're not showing up for our life, really, because we are deeply afraid of failing and we don't have the certainty that we can actually do it and do it well and really juggle it with the rest of our life. I think we scroll through Facebook. We scroll through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram feeds looking for bits of information that will make us feel better. But it doesn't. It actually leaves us feeling more anxious and more worried because we're looking to somebody else's life and their experiences to tell us that we're going to be okay. And that's not where we can find it. And I think, again, if you've grown up like I did, I grew up an evangelical Christian. And, for me, if I read my Bible and prayed every day, hoping to grow. If you remember the little song we used to sing, read your Bible, pray every day, and you'll grow. I think there was something for me at some point that because I didn't really understand the relational aspect of all of that, it was less relational. I was doing it in hopes that growing would somehow help circumvent or help me avoid any and all bad things that might come my way. There was this hidden motive for me of, if I do this, it'll help prevent bad things, or it'll help keep me at this place of knowing and being certain. And the truth is that living from a value system of certainty, like that drive, that need for certainty, it creates a relationship with ourselves. We do this with others, and we will do this with God, and it's transactional. It creates this transactional relationship because it creates in us this thing where it's like, if I do this, then you should do that. So God, I'm reading my Bible, I'm praying, I'm doing all these things for you, I'm giving, I'm serving, I'm loving, I'm sacrificing. So therefore you should do this. You need to step into my world and make sure it's ordered, it's safe, and it's secure. We do this maybe with our spouses. If I give you this, or if I love you, or if I sacrifice this for you, you should do this. And we create these transactional interactions instead of relational. And it becomes something where we're trying to moderate and even manipulate our interactions with others in order to just squeeze the certainty and the security out of them. So let me show you a little bit more what I mean. I'm going to run through really fast. If you're having any resistance to this idea that maybe you're living out of a value system of this drive and need for certainty, I want to just take a closer look at these numbers. And I would love to hear your feedback. If you are in disagreement with that, let's have a conversation. I would love to hear your take on this. But if you are unfamiliar with the Enneagram, a quick sum up of what it is it actually tells us 9 ways that we all unknowingly, each one of those 9 ways have unknowingly developed patterns to secure safety and security for ourselves in the world. So I am a lover of the Enneagram. I have for years, with the coaching that I've done for people, I have ascribed to many different personality assessments and tests. And I love studying people. I love studying the way that we are in the world and our differences and all the things that we bring to the table. I love studying it for myself, as well as just the ability to be able to connect with other people and help other people really connect with themselves. But I feel like the Enneagram is the one that has just really hit home for me for the first time, because it is different than other typing tests in that it doesn't report behavior. It doesn't simply report behavior. It shows us the way in which we see the world. And it shows us what's driving our behavior, what's motivating us. At the core, what is motivating you and what is motivating I? We might do the exact same things. We might have very similar behavior even at times, but it's the motivation behind it that makes us different. So here is the motivation. I want to show you the breakdown of what's motivating each of the 9 numbers so that you can see how each number seeks security and safety in their world daily. And this is probably very subconscious. Some of it may be conscious. The more conscious you can become in this, the more aware you can become, the more you can actually grow in this area. So I'm telling you how it plays out at a very subconscious level. But the truth is, all of us have the freedom and the choice and the ability to grow in our awareness and to really better ourselves as human beings. And so the ones, so we're going to start with type 1, they want to be good. That's what's driving them, the motivation to be good. And they want to reach their potential and help other people to do the same. And they really want to make the world a better place. And they fear being criticized, they fear being rejected or treated unjustly, or being wrong or being wronged. So those are some of their fears. So in order to stay secure, this is what they have to do. They have to sacrifice fun, spontaneity, and feeling carefree in order to maintain that sense of security. Because remember, their security is coming from all the things that they tell themselves they should do. Making sure that they stay in line and that they're right and they're perfect. That's where they're gaining their sense of security from. So they must forfeit. Really, they have to forfeit the inner child and the true self for security and a sense of control. Type 2s, they want to be loving. They want to be seen as good. They want to be seen as caring and helpful. And 2s really want to make the world a more loving place. They have such a desire to connect and to be cared for and loved. And they fear not being needed. They fear being rejected or separated or isolated. 2s really sacrifice their own needs. They sacrifice the things that they want, their agendas, and oftentimes their boundaries in order to create security for themselves by being helpful to others and by being needed by others, because they believe that's how they'll be loved. So they have to sacrifice a whole lot of themselves in order to gain that security for themselves. Type 3s. Type 3s want to be effective and productive. And they love to get things done. They want to keep things moving. They want to accomplish what they set out to do. And they really want to make the world a more effective place. They're deeply afraid of failure and they are afraid of not being successful. So what they forego is time off and being loved simply for who they are, They forego that for image and for performance and for accomplishments so that they'll truly be accepted. They believe that their security lies in those things, so they forego this ability to just be loved for who they are. Type 4s, they want to be original, and they also want to be authentic and creative, and they feel very deeply. They love beauty, they desire to make the world a more meaningful place. They want to be connected to themselves and others, yet they fear abandonment. They fear being left out, ignored, uncared for. They fear having their style stifled. They want to have that that special style, that unique style. They also fear their creativity being stifled. So 4s believe that their security is really wrapped up in their uniqueness or how special they are, and also how much they suffer. So they have this unique way of seeing the world where the very thing that they think their security is wrapped up in, it keeps them in a state of uncertainty if they'll ever find happiness and a level of, they desire just this level of being able to be ordinary, but they can't give that up because it would mean giving up who they are, that desire for being special. So it keeps them in this place of uncertainty. 5s really want to understand. They want to be competent and seen as competent and wise and very perceptive. They value their independence and they value their privacy. And they fear being taken over. I have a 5 child, and she fears being taken over, running out of energy, or being exposed, visible, or seen as foolish. So to maintain their security, 5s, what they will do to ensure that they won't be overtaken or seen as incompetent, they often play it really safe. They often play it safe and forfeit close relationships so that they won't be truly known and so that they don't have to exert feelings and emotions. So they forgo their heart for the head to stay secure. That's what 5s will do. 6s want to do their duty, and they are very loyal. They're very committed, and their desire is for security. That's the thing about a 6. What they long for is security and safety, and they seek to make the world a safer place. And they fear, as a result, they fear a lot of things, particularly being betrayed or deceived. They fear being caught off guard, not being prepared, being rejected by the group, being physically or emotionally harmed. 6s have a lot of fears, and they have that because they feel that their fear is what pushes and drives them to be prepared. And it's really what they think has helped them create a place of security. So ironically, the very thing that the 6 feels creates security for them, because it thus brings preparation and readiness for any situation, it's keeping them insecure because they've had to sacrifice actually trusting themselves and always looking outside of themselves to an outside authority for advice or direction. So it keeps them in this place of insecurity. Although all of these numbers, as I'm stating them, I don't know if you can see, it's like we have what we think is keeping us secure. It's false security. We do these things to create the semblance of security, but at the end of the day, it's the very thing keeping us from security. So 3 more, the 7s, they want adventure and freedom, and they want to experience all that life has, and they want to experience it to the fullest. They want to explore, they want to have fun, they want to make the world a more exciting and pleasurable place. That's their desire, and they fear being tied down. They fear being trapped and stuck and limited and immobilized or paralyzed. That thought is, the thought of something painful or boring is kind of like death to them. And they feel secure as long as they feel okay. As long as they can find the silver lining in anything, that is what helps create the security for the 7. And so what they sacrifice to get that is inner stillness, inner peace, and actually they sacrifice genuine fulfillment for this false security, this thing that's offering false security for them through less fulfilling and very enticing activities that keep them busy. The 8s want to be autonomous and independent. They want to live their life in a way where they want to live their life the way they want to live it. Let's say that. And they want to use their power to both empower and to also disempower. So they desire to make the world a more just place. They have a very strong sense of justice. But 8s fear betrayal. They fear being taken advantage of. They fear being treated unfairly, feeling weak, feeling powerless, limited, or even subordinate, or they fear being out of control. 8s will really, in order to keep security and to keep that, they'll have to sacrifice any closeness with people for the sake of remaining secure in their invulnerability and really that semblance of control, because we all know control is an illusion. And each one of us is seeking it in some form or fashion. The 9s value harmony and peace. They want inclusion, and they really approach life with a go with the flow attitude. Often they forfeit their own opinions, desires, and ideas to avoid conflict. And they fear that their presence doesn't really matter. They fear that no one notices them. However, to remain secure in their minds, they must, and remember, this is in our minds because we're creating this sense of security. They daily have to sacrifice asserting themselves and their own desires, because to do so would put them at risk of being seen and causing a stir if what they actually bring to the table differs from what's acceptable. So they forfeit that for the sense of security, the sense of safety. So I'm going to do just a quick rundown review of everything I said. I'm going to say it. That was kind of the more wordy version of it so that I could explain it. And I'm just going to fire these off. If you hear your number or you hear one that jumps out to you, just jot it down, because this might be something that really helps you as you're walking through these next 4 weeks with me of learning how to embrace uncertainty. I think part of embracing our uncertainties that we face is learning ourselves. It's learning how we see the world. It's learning what's driving us so that we can see what's actually motivating us to create this false sense of security. Okay, so every day you and I are making value trade-offs. In other words, we are trading security, but it's costing us something. We are seeking security, I should say, and we are trading something for it, and we don't even know it that we're doing it. So the 1s every day, in order to get security, you are trading being right. That's what you're doing. You're trading being right for the lighthearted spontaneity that you could have. 2s, you are trading being needed. You're okay to do that, to secure your place of safety, to really get your place of security, I should say. You're trading being needed for honoring your own needs. 3s, every day, 3s are trading being successful for being their authentic selves, believing that the success will secure them security, will get them security, but they're trading their most authentic self to get that. 4s, every day you're trading in some way. If you're not aware of it, you are trading being unique and flawed. You're actually elevating those things and choosing those things for genuine connection and happiness. And 5s, you're trading being intelligent you're trading being intelligent and competent for being known. That's the trade-off for you. You're believing that intelligence and competency will give you a greater sense of security than being known would. 6s, you're trading being fearful for trusting yourself. There's a trade-off there. There's a cost. And 7s, you're trading being free for inner peace and fulfillment. 8s, you are trading being powerful for being vulnerable. And 9s, you are trading being harmonious for being present for your life, for showing up for your life. So this week was all about just exposing and unmasking the idea that you and I are living from this core value system of a desire and a need for certainty. It's not bad, but it can turn into something that creates such anxiety and such worry for us. And I'm going to show you next week how living from this value system might actually be hindering you from taking the risk that you need to take, stepping into new opportunities and new relationships, all the stuff of life, all the good, abundant stuff of life lies outside of it, lies outside of the uncertainty that you're facing. And I want to show you how I have learned to embrace life on life's terms in the midst of so many uncertainties, more than I even have time to list for you. I want to show you how to do that and how to embrace all that comes with uncertainty and how to take the risk that I know are deep in your heart that you want to take, but that you're afraid to take. But I want to show you how that risk that you might be afraid to take it might be the very thing that is the deciding factor between your success and not. So one thing that I have found super useful in my life is journaling. And I'm not always somebody that can sit with a pen and paper and just write and write and write. But so there's multiple ways to journal. Maybe you are somebody that can write. I'm not talking like a Dear Diary and you write pages and pages and pages. What I'm suggesting, I want to give you 2 journal prompts for this week, because if we hear something and don't really do anything with it, then it's not super helpful. It just becomes another tidbit of interesting or inspiring information. But what I want you to do is to take this week and take the posture of noticer. Take this position in your own life of a noticer, like almost like come outside of your body, look down at yourself and notice yourself in any given situation. And being a noticer allows you to observe what you're doing free of judgment, free of shame, free of any of the negative things that you hear in your head when you do something that you think is wrong or not acceptable. We judge ourselves so harshly and we are filled with such shame immediately. So I want you to step outside of that, and I want you to just be an observer this week, an observer of your behavior. And I want you to start going, I wonder what I was up to there. I wonder what that was about for me. Free of shame, free of judgment. And I want to encourage you, either keep a journal with you and jot a sentence down. When you just literally write observations and put the date. Today I observed, things I've noticed. One thing that I love to do is on my iPhone, I just have a note that says observations or noticings, things that I'm noticing, and it's for the week of whatever. Or I might have, if there's specifically something that kind of each quarter, I create a new vision for myself. And if I have something that I just create a note on my iPhone, noticings or observations around that thing. So for instance, this might be, you might write down on your note, observations about uncertainty, value system of uncertainty. And what I want you to do is I want you to notice this week and take note of it, where the value system of certainty, this drive for certainty, how is it driving your behavior? And then as you make those observations, I want you to ask this question: what has the trade-off been for you? When you see it drive your behavior, is the trade-off an argument with your spouse? Is the trade-off you blew up at your kids and you didn't know that's what was causing your anxiety and those blow-ups? But when you step back and you notice yourself, you're like, oh, it's because I was feeling so anxious because X, Y, and Z are out of my control and I was struggling I just wanted something certain. So the thing I can control is to scream at my kids right now to go clean up their room, because that's the only thing I feel that I have in my control right now. Believe me, we've all done it. There's no shame. So I want you to ask yourself that question. Notice the value system of certainty, how it's driving your behavior, and ask yourself, what's the trade-off? Second thing I want you to notice this week is, where are you seeking certainty in any given moment? If you know your Enneagram number, take note of that. Where are you seeking it at any given moment? You're kind of like clawing for it. Do you wake up with the feeling of it? Do you check your phone right away in the morning, and does it instantly kick in uncertainty for you? What is it? Where in your life this week are you seeking certainty? And again, what does that cost you? What has the cost been for in those moments, those little or big moments where you are seeking certainty and there's things that you do to try to secure it and get it? Okay, I am excited about this series. I'm excited about this. I cannot wait to hear. Leave a comment underneath. Leave a comment for me, or leave a comment on Instagram or on Facebook. Let me know how the things that you're noticing this week. I would love to have some conversation with you around this, and I look forward to just doing this together with you, embracing uncertainty and looking at all the ways that it is driving our behavior and how we can really gain some new perspective and some fresh tools in our life to really overcome the uncertainties that we are all facing. See you next week.